Hey guys, welcome back to While You Were Cleaning. Today I have 3 different Dollar Tree Christmas decor DIYs to share with you. I really love how each of these DIYs turned out. They were very simple to put together and I love the color palette of them. It's a little bit more neutral. I also think these DIYs would be perfect for leaving up even after Christmas and just letting them be some winter decor in your home. There's nothing that's super Christmassy about them, so they would work great as winter decor as well. So I do hope that you all enjoyed today's video. I'm excited to get into these DIYs and show you how I put them together. Thank you for joining me for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date on all of my latest videos, and let's get into these DIYs. First off, I have a really fun Pom Pom wreath to share with you. Now I'm gonna do this in green shades. So I have 6 different colors of green yarn that I have picked up from Dollar Tree. I'm gonna use those to put together this wreath. I also have some of this kind of thicker white paper. It's a little bit thicker than cardstock, so you might want a thin cardboard if you don't have like a thick cardstock paper like this one. And I'm going to be using 3 different sizes of this. So there's about a 1/2 inch difference between each of the sizes. And on each of those cards, I went ahead and cut out a little wedge out of one side of them, and that'll just make it easier for putting together some pom-poms. As you can see here, after I've wrapped around the yarn around where that little wedge is cut out several times, and then I take a piece of yarn and I just feed it through that little slit in the paper and then tie it on really tight down the center. Then you can go ahead and cut off the ends of your yarn so it comes out in this pom-pom shape, and you can see it still has that middle piece of yarn attached. You want to leave that on there because we're going to use that to attach it to our wreath. And like I was saying before, I did do 3 different sizes of pom-poms. It just gives this finished product a little bit more of a dimension. So this is the middle size. So you can see it's just a little bit larger than that first pom-pom that I made. And then this is the largest of the pom-poms that I put together for this wreath. And in a minute here, I will show you all of the different colors and sizes all laid out once I had all the pom-poms completely finished. Once I had all of this initial work done on the pom-poms and just kind of trimmed off any extra pieces, I took a comb and I fluffed up each of the pom-poms with the teeth of that comb. This just helps your pom-poms to look a little bit fuller without having to use so much yarn to make each individual pom-pom. So pretty much with the comb, you are just unraveling each of those yarn strands, and then once you're done with each of the pom-poms, you'll just go ahead and trim it out so it's a little bit more of a rounded shape and doesn't really have any extra little pieces sticking out there. With putting together all of these pom-poms, it was a little bit tedious, I will admit. It did take some time to put them all together, but I also think it would be a great project that you could sit down and do while you're watching a show with your family, watching your favorite TV show, whatever it might be. I know for myself, if I'm just sitting down to watch TV, I'm normally eating, so this is something that can keep your hands busy while you're sitting down relaxing. Here you can see some of those first few pom-poms that I put together, just a close-up of how they look with all of those little strands teased out with the comb. And then here is a layout of all the different sizes and colors that I put together. Like I said, I did do 6 different colors and I did 3 sizes of each of those colors. And then to finish assembling this wreath, I'm going to use the largest hoop from this 3-pack. You could also cut apart a regular wreath form from Dollar Tree there if you're not able to find these hoops. And then I just used that piece of yarn that I used to tie the center of each of the pom-poms. I left that long on each of them, and I used that to tie these all onto the ring. And I did kind of stagger them a little bit. I would do a large one, medium, large. You can see here I did medium, medium, and then large again. Just kind of did it a little bit random, and then I'm gonna come back in and add those smallest ones that I made here at the end once these ones are tied onto the ring. You can follow the same pattern that I did here or just come up with your own pattern. You could also use whatever color yarn that you can find there in the store. If you just want to go with some classic Christmas colors and do greens and reds, or if you want to do all reds and burgundies and pinks, those would look great together as well. I added all of my medium and large size pom-poms onto this wreath form first. And then once I had all of those in place where I wanted them, I went ahead and went back through and added on the smallest size of pom-pom of each of these colors. Once I had all of my pom-poms tied onto the wreath form and had them in place where I wanted them, I went ahead and I cut out a half circle, kind of a moon shape out of a piece of cardboard, and I'm going to be gluing all of my pom-poms onto that cardboard. So it is underneath all of the pom-poms and it's underneath that wreath form. And then I just kind of readjusted all my pom-poms, made sure they were exactly where I wanted them. And then I just added just a little bit of hot glue underneath each one of them. You don't have to do a lot. And this will just make sure that they've stayed where I put them. That way when I pick it up to hang it up, they're not kind of fallen and facing downwards. Once they're all glued onto the cardboard, I went back through and trimmed off all of those longer yarn pieces from the center of the pom-poms. And here's how that finished wreath turned out, and I really love this finished wreath. It looks amazing. I love the texture that it has. It feels so warm and cozy, and I really love the variance of using the 6 different just all green colors and not adding a bunch of different colors in there. Next, I have a really fun DIY using these wooden birdhouses. I got 2 different styles. So one with the staggered roof and then 2 others that are the same thing. And I am going to be making kind of clay houses out of these. So you could add some little clay type houses to your decor. So I went ahead and took those pegs out of the front of the birdhouses, and I'm going to use this lightweight spackling, and I'm going to completely coat all 3 of these houses. I found a 3-pack of these plastic tools in the Crafter Square section of my store. They have 3 different styles in the pack, and you'll see me use the other 2 styles a little bit later on in this project. But you might also be able to find some putty tools in the tool aisle of your Dollar Tree as well. You'll just want something that has a pointed edge on it so you can get up into that top part of the house really well and get the spackling nice and smooth up there. This first coat of spackling did take a little bit longer to put on because the wood house is just so smooth that it was hard to get it to want to stick to the house. But the second coat went a lot quicker, and once I got the hang of it, I was able to put on the spackling a little bit easier. As you can see there, I also took a square piece of paper and covered up the hole on the one side of the birdhouse just so I could have a nice smooth surface so it didn't look like a birdhouse any longer and instead looked a little bit more like an actual house. And I just covered up that piece of paper with some more of this spackling. I wasn't too worried about getting this first coat completely smooth on the house. My main goal was just getting that house covered because it was a little bit hard to get that first coat to stick onto the house. And then I went back through and I did a second coat on the entire house as well. Just want to make sure that your spackling dries between each coat. Here you can see also I'm using one of those other tools. So it did have 3 different shapes that you could work with in that 3-pack. Also, I did coat all 3 of these houses with 2 coats of spackling, and I didn't even use half of this container of spackling. I don't know how it stretched so far, but it did. It worked really well for this project. And so I just want to let you know, I only ended up using just 1 of those tubs of spackling. You'll want to get this second coat as smooth as possible. The smoother you get it now, the less sanding that you'll have to do later on. So just keep that in mind as you're coating this house. Here you can see how my houses looked after 2 coats of spackling and after they sat for an entire day and dried. I had a break in some rainy weather, so I hurried outside and went ahead and took some sandpaper to all of these. So I just quickly filmed sanding one of them just because I just wanted to hurry up and get it done before it started raining again. I had waited all morning for that rain to stop so that I could do this messy work outside. And here's how the house looks after I completely sanded it. So I did sand all 3 of them. I was mainly worried about the front side of my house looking good since that's what's going to be facing forward when I decorate. Next, I mixed some cream and white paint to get a lighter, more off-white color paint, and I'm gonna paint all of these houses with this. So I did just do 1 good coat on all of the houses, and the purpose of this paint is to make sure the entire house is one color. You can see some of the edges still have that wood color to them or that wood look. And so I just wanted to make sure that I completely coated those so that the whole house looks like it is made of clay and that it is just all one color. And you can, of course, paint these whatever color matches your home decor. I just wanted to do this cream color. Next, I took a pencil and I did an outline of the door and windows that I wanted to paint on the house. And good thing is, if you mess up with your drawing with the pencil, you can always just erase it or paint back over it. I then used some chalkboard black paint and just filled in between those lines with a smaller paintbrush. I do kind of wish that I had used a gray paint instead, just so it didn't stand out so much on the front of the houses. But once I started with the black, I just decided to go ahead and finish with that black color. And I did a different door and window shape for each of my 3 houses just to give them something that was a little bit different about each of them. You could make them all match as well. There are also some other shapes of these little birdhouses there at Dollar Tree, so you could go with some of the other shapes as well if you wanted to do a whole village of different shaped houses. And here you can see how those little houses turned out. I love the way these look. I do think that they have a clay look to them with the finished texture and everything that they have going on. You could add in some little trees as well to make this like a little village. And then on that center house there, I also went with the shape of the roof line when I did the shape of my door, just to give it a little bit of a different look. And then the last one there had the square shapes. For my last project today, I'm going to use this metal bucket that I picked up with the fall supplies at Dollar Tree. I like that it has nice straight sides. And then I'll also be using some tissue paper, and I'm just gonna cut it up into some strips, just some smaller pieces so it's easier to work with. And I chose this bucket because of the straight sides. I want to make this look kind of like a birch log. So whatever container that you use, whether it's a bucket, a plastic container, just something with some nice straight sides will end up looking the best for this project. Here I am just brushing some regular Elmer's craft glue onto the side of my bucket, and then I took my tissue paper and I crinkled it up so it was wrinkly, and then I'm just pressing that on top of the glue that I spread onto my bucket. You could also use some Mod Podge for this project. That would work the same as the Elmer's glue. I just had the Elmer's glue on hand. It was easier to find. Once I had the paper added on to the bucket with some glue, I went back over the paper with some more glue just to make sure all of the edges were all stuck together. And then I'm going to use some cream color paint and then also some white paint. And I just alternated between the two colors, and I covered up the surface of the tissue paper on my bucket. Now this is already dry. All that tissue paper and glue is all dry. And then once it's dry, then I started painting. And I'm just alternating between those two colors, not using a different brush or anything, just going back and forth between the two colors just to give it some variance with color on the surface of this. Once my first coat was dry, I went back over the bucket and just made sure all the little edges, all the silver parts of the bucket, and then in between all the paper, just made sure it was all filled in with paint so that you couldn't see any of the silver bucket showing through the finished surface. Here you can see how it looks with just that white and cream on it. And next I am going to add some gray and then also this kind of lighter brown to this. These are colors that I already had, so I was just using what I had on hand. I am using the same brush that I just used. Didn't need to switch it out at all. It's okay if your colors kind of blend together. And I'm just gonna start with my colors and go lightest to darkest. So I started with the gray, just added some across the surface just to give this kind of a shadow look to it, just a little bit more variance of color across this. Once I was happy with how the gray looked, I went ahead and started adding some brown, and I tried to dab off my brush really well there. I didn't want the brown to come through too dark. And then I'm just doing the lines of my brown in a vertical direction here and just breaking them up a little bit so they're not just in straight lines going up the side of the bucket. Then decided I wanted just one more shade of brown on this, so I went ahead and grabbed a brown that I had that was just a little bit darker and added some lines with that as well up the side of the bucket. My purpose was to make this bucket look like a birch log. This is as good as it got, so I think it turned out pretty good. Next, I'm going to add some greenery to the top of this bucket to finish it off. These are some evergreen stems that I found at Dollar Tree this year. I think they have a great realistic look to them, and then I added in a couple other types of stems as well. You can do whatever colors might match your decor style. I really love some of the newer floral that Dollar Tree has been putting out this year. They just have so many options to choose from. So with this one, I just chose some greens and some whites, and I think they look really well with the bucket and how it's supposed to look like a birch log. Just, they go well together. And here you can see that finished project. I really love this one as well, and I think that the vase part of this turned out pretty good, looking like a birch log for my first time painting something to try to look like a birch log. I really hope that you all have enjoyed today's video and that it's given you some ideas that you can use for your Christmas or winter decor this year. Let me know down in the comments which of these DIYs was your favorite one today. And again, thank you so much for watching today's video and joining me. I appreciate you all. You're amazing. And thanks for watching, guys.